when health is absent. Wisdom cannot reveal itself. Art cannot manifest. Strength cannot fight. Wealth becomes useless, and intelligence cannot be applied. FBSN presents The Health Wave. Maximum information for making wise health and lifestyle decisions.
Welcome back to The Health Wave. Last week we had the privilege to speak with the author of this wonderful book, Controlling Crohn's Disease the Natural Way, Virginia Harper. We talked about her remarkable recovery from an incurable Crohn's disease and life-threatening vasculitis. Virginia is a well-known macrobiota counselor, but we want her to be even more well-known to those people who suffer with digestive distress and who doesn't in today's world. Virginia has been able to help lots and lots of people to heal, improve, learn, reverse their health conditions, and retain their colons, what's most important. Today, Virginia is on the other end of this connection again, continuing to share with us her wisdom, experience, knowledge that she gained over the years. Hi, Virginia.
Hi, Victoria. Thank you for having me back.
Thank you for doing this again with us. Last segment was wonderful. So many great comments from people and wonderful feedback. I was very happy with it.
Oh, I was too. Thank you.
Well, let's get to the business itself, because I know that so many people want to hear about how to reverse IBD. Whether they have Crohn's disease or colitis, it's very similar, and you are very successful at this. You know, currently medical research is actively working on finding this miracle cure, finding this miracle medicine. And I often see these headlines on the internet, new clinical trials accepting participants. And it goes on and on. The science is actively searching. And seems like you know the answer. So what's the secret to this condition?
Well, it's interesting because there isn't just one answer. Mm-hmm. I would like to share a quick story. I had a 12-year-old I was working with years ago, and his doctors were at Vanderbilt Hospital. And the parents found me, and before the child could go on medication, we were able to put him on the program. And he did quite well, as children usually do, because they're the more resilient. And within weeks, he was almost back to normal, and then it was just some time to build him up. Well, the doctors got curious to know why and how he did this. So they called the father and to talk to him, and he called me and said, please come with me because I don't know how to answer the questions. And they had a PR person there, and he was just very complimentary on the fact that this child had been able to avoid the medicines and the surgery, and he had somehow done it, turned his Crohn's around, and was definitely in remission. And how did you do it? And the father said, well, we followed her protocol, her instructions. And he said, oh, so you have a way of taking care of this Crohn's? I said, yes, it worked for me and it's working for many others. And he leaned into the table and he said, what is the secret? What is the ingredient? What is the wonderful thing you're using to help this Crohn's turn around? And I said, well, it's not one thing. It's a lifestyle, and it's focused on food, what you eat. He goes, well, what about the food? What's with the one thing? And I said, no, it's learning what the person needs to rebuild the intestines. And he sat back and he said, well, we can't do anything with that.
Wow.
Which goes to prove that in medical, they're also searching for that one miracle drug, that one miracle ingredient that they can make into a pharmaceutical in order to, heal, cure, whatever. But in the 40 years that I've been dealing with this, no pharmaceutical has made a difference the way the food does in your body.
No doubts. And I wonder, did they offer you to be part of their medical staff of the hospital?
No. Once he said, we can't do anything with this, I realized that it would be such a stretch for them to start focusing in on nutrition.
Absolutely.
He actually said to me, if you can come up with one thing that is the key ingredient that helps, then call me.
Impossible.
No, it is impossible, because no matter how the Crohn's develops, the colitis develop, when we talked about this last time, pathogens, viruses, gluten, whatever, you're diagnosed with as the cause of it, and still is not unknown. The only way back is to rebuild that tissue one cell at a time.
Right.
And the only thing that feeds our cells in the proper way is food.
The book that you wrote, again and again, I'm bringing this up, Controlling Crohn's Disease the Natural Way, is called Controlling Crohn's Disease, not healing or curing. So does that mean that it's impossible to reverse?
Thank you for asking that. Because I wanted to put heal, cure. But because of legalities, the publisher that published my book would not stretch that far.
Wow.
And so I negotiated with controlling. But as many of myself included, as many of the people that I've worked with, when you get that clean colonoscopy, there's 2 times you rejoice during this program. One, when you finally have a normal stool and you only have 1 to 2 a day instead of 20 a day, and is normal. That's time to rejoice. The second is when you start getting clean colonoscopies.
Well, by medical terms, again, coming back to the beginning of the illness, by medical terms, the cause of it is unknown. But we know exactly that whatever problems we have, whatever health problems we acquire, they fit us like a glove.
Yes.
And macrobiotics has a unique approach to understanding disease, to the diagnosis of it. So by the macrobiotic stance, what causes IBD?
Thank you. And actually, I co-wrote a book with the Cushing Institute with Ed Esco and Alex Jack on the macrobiotic philosophy of Crohn's and colitis, where we speak about the imbalances that actually cause it through those avenues, which is energetic. And so, to put it simply, it is an environmental condition. It's man-made, which means that, let's take me, for instance, back 40 years ago, when I was finally diagnosed with Crohn's, the food was the main cause of my imbalance. I had been living in Chile, South America, and I had been almost living macrobiotically. We would go to the market every day and get our fresh food, and the foods were cooked at home, and we ate at home, and then with whole foods, so we didn't have any processing of any kind back then. And then I came to America, the land of opportunity. Part of the opportunity was that you had TV meals and quick meals and cereal boxes and canned soups. And coming to America to make a better way of life, my parents depended on us kids being able to go to those foods as they took on more and more work hours to make ends meet. And so my body went from a whole foods environment to a processed food environment overnight. And then the stress of coming to a new country and the stresses that I grew up with exacerbated what was already brewing in my intestines. Now, that was my organ weakness. Not everybody has the same weaknesses. My brother and my sister didn't get Crohn's and colitis. Nobody else in my family got Crohn's and colitis. But they had other issues going on. And so it does depend on your genetic constitution somewhat, what weaknesses come through, but then it is what you expose environmentally to. So now let's move ahead 20 years, okay? In my children's generation, who are now having their babies, so a third generation removed from me, the intestines have gotten weaker with each generation. And so this is why there's such an epidemic of this. Not only are these babies coming in with a weakened system, but they're getting bombarded with inoculations now. And the food is less than. More babies are daycare babies than ever before. So the parents depend on efficiency, that depend on everything packaged and easily open for the daycare system to be able to feed their child. And so not only has the constitution weakened, especially in the organ system, but also our food has diminished in quality. So our intestines take the brunt of it.
I don't know one person that does not have one sort of digestive problem.
Right.
And
right.
more and more allergies come among the children, young children.
Children are born with more sensitivities nowadays than ever before.
Exactly. And then when people have this condition, dealing with it is very difficult. It's a very annoying and energy draining condition, isn't it?
Yes.
People live in the misery, searching for this miracle medicine, go for trying one medicine after another, until they finally even consider to see someone like Virginia Harper. Is it true? Do you normally deal with people with advanced conditions already?
Oh, yes. I have actually had young people, teenagers, show up on feeding tubes, on elemental feeding systems where they're fed through the night and they still try to eat during the day. Supplemental systems, drastic. And even at that, we've been able to turn things around. Unfortunately, there's not a confidence yet in natural care for these conditions. And so people, you can imagine, you have your child and the doctor's telling you his problem is because of these conditions, and you've already experienced him double over in pain or go into the toilet 20 times a day and so weak he can't move around. So there's a lot of fear. And the doctors present these harsh immunosuppressive drugs that, if you're lucky, that may make you feel better for a little while because they stifle the immune system. And so you're not getting the full effect of your disease. It's being Band-Aid over. And so it's not really helping anything or curing anything. It's just making you, it's like an aspirin for a headache, Why do you have the headache? But you just stop it with an aspirin temporarily because you don't know what to do. The same thing with intestinal inflammation. It becomes a vicious cycle, and the only thing that's going to help is to figure out in each person why the intestines are inflammatory state.
So an IBD patient comes to see you. What's your approach with such a person, with your client?
I do about a 2-hour analysis. And the analysis is not only do they feel complete, a very long form of information, because I want this history as well as what's going on at the present moment. I need to know all about the drugs they've taken in and the surgeries, because I'm not only trying to heal their condition, help them find their way to healing their condition, but now we have all the side effect and introduction of the drugs. So I need a complete form filled out of that. Then I do what's called visual analysis, where the body is a map on the outside what goes on in the inside. And when you go to an acupuncturist, he'll take your pulse, he'll look at your tongue, look at your eyes, things like that. Well, I do the same thing. I rely a lot on how the body looks to let me know everything from the way the person's metabolizing the food, digesting, absorbing, what mineral intake they're capable of, because we get very mineral depleted quickly, especially if you're losing a lot of water and diarrhea and blood. And so all these things take a couple of hours with all the questions and analysis I do.
So
at that point, I have a good idea of where they are.
Some of the things that you can visually see, what are a couple of those, if you don't mind sharing?
Well, one is around the mouth, relates a lot to our small intestine, large intestine. Mm-hmm. So your bottom lips gives a good clue on what your large colon's doing. Some people are really swollen, irritated, they constantly have chapped lips, they spend their time biting their bottom lip, things like that become obvious. Mm-hmm. They get fever blisters, they break out a lot. That's all signs of intestinal inflammation going on the early stages. The skin color is also another clue, because you need vibrant skin color to look alive. And a lot of people have a very pale, ashy type of color because they're not absorbing and the oxygen in the blood is very weak.
Thank you. I interrupted you. You were moving forward about your approach with...
Yes. So once I get a good handle on where they are digesting, then I define the program for them. And it really is about how well they metabolize their food, how quickly we move through. So I take out the biggest triggers, which are your sugars, anything that breaks down into simple sugars, including fruit, including especially fruit juices. A lot of people show up on smoothies and juicing and all that, which is a nice cleanse, but they need to be absorbing better. And then I take away the harder proteins to digest, which dairy and sugar, cheese and chicken are the worst ones to digest. And I bring them in to a more plant-based program as a fast, as a cleanse, but as a gentle cleanse, because they've already been suffering. They've already been restricted from their eating because they hurt when they eat. And so I don't want to do another really harsh, restrictive fast. I want them to be absorbing the food I'm giving them and the food I'll be cooking for them, or they'll be cooking, and get energy from that. A lot of times when you cleanse and fast, you get weak before you get better. That's not the goal here. These people already show up very skin and bones thin, lack of appetite, being afraid to eat. So my goal is to get them eating again, take away the fear of eating, and start letting the body absorb.
So do you remove all the bad foods from their diet gradually or drastically?
I remove foods that are stressful to them. I don't like labeling foods good or bad because then we get this psychological thing going on as we progress through. So a food is either supportive to your body or stressful to your body. And that's what I taught my kids as they grew up, because I didn't want them pointing to foods and going good food, bad food. They just really need to listen to their body to see what foods gave them energy and what foods depleted their energy. So I removed the foods pretty quickly, the ones that stress the body, but in turn, quickly also substitute the foods that I feel they're going to do well on.
So what are the foods, the most stressful foods for this type of patients?
With colitis and Crohn's, across the board, dairy. Across the board, sugar, chicken, spicy. I think the top four.
So you say chicken before meat. You know how often people say, "Oh, I don't eat meat. I only eat chicken."
Only because we've become such a chicken crazy society, and most of the young people I get are hooked on chicken nuggets, and so it's become an epidemic. With a child, when I work with children, really young children, they're either stuck on eating chicken nuggets, bananas, and the little cheddar fish that come in the box. That's all the kids will eat. And so the body can't get nutrition out of that. So immediately I start phasing. With a child, I do more phasing out of it instead of just cold turkey. With an older teenager and adults, of course, you can logic with them and say, you're going to have to leave this food aside and concentrate on what's going to build up the body.
I know that you also give education to your clients, and that is included in your 10-day program. What does your 10-day program consist of?
Yes. My whole philosophy is I want to educate you so you don't need me anymore. Because if you think of the programs out there, there's always a protocol of do these 10 things or do this for a week. And it may help for that moment, but then how do you segue out of that into a normal life? And so by educating you in how to first read your body, listen to your body, and then learn what the proper health code is for you when it comes to life, when it comes to food, exercise, mental de-stress. It's all a package. It's not one thing. And so I spend a lot of time educating in all my counseling programs. I include group cooking classes, theory classes in there. So you're not only getting your food instruction, but you're getting education with it. Now, people show up in pain, like I said, desperate, in a crisis situations many times to me. So I only concentrate on the food the first few days because, like me, all I wanted is to be out of pain and be able to eat. So I'm not going to be bombarding them with, other things I do, lifestyle, until they can pay attention and open up to the possibilities of healing. Because believe me, when you've been told, like myself, for 7 years from every doctor in the East Coast almost, that I was not going to heal, that I was going to be with this for the rest of my life, that I was going to have my colon taken out eventually, you believe that.
Absolutely.
And you come to this afraid. You come to this with a lot, no hope that anything's going to work. So even as you're feeling better, you're doubting things. How long is this going to last? Or if you feel any twinge of anything, you think, oh no, it's coming back. And that's where the education comes in.
And working with a client, you always have to remember that about this part. But you also believe when you go to the doctor, you get the diagnosis and they tell you the type of diet you should follow. You also believe that you should stay away from fiber. And I'm sure this is probably one of the first objections that you have to come across. What do you tell people about it?
Yes, that's so true. When I looked at my program that was laid out for me, I panicked because I have been told no fiber, no bulk, no vegetables, eat potato soup and drink your milk and just be on your way. And so to be thrown into a whole foods world, it is scary until you understand, again, the education component, until you understand why. And the intestines work. It's a muscle that works. It's an organ that pumps. And you have to keep it working by using it. And what makes the intestine work is fiber and bulk foods. You can't bulk up a stool if you don't have bulk intake in your daily eating.
True.
And the fiber is what triggers all the processes to work, from the stomach to the small intestine to the large intestine, until you eliminate. But you can be gentle depending on where a person is in their digestive process. You begin to manipulate the soluble and insoluble fibers. So it doesn't trigger them, but actually helps them and starts waking up the dormant, damaged areas of the colon. And that promotes healing.
I also read a study that Dr. McDougall brings up about fat and fiber in your diet. You know how we absorb bile that is secreted by the liver in the last part of the small intestines called ileum, right? People with IBD are not able to do that. And that's why this bile drains down the colon, down the large intestine. And fiber helps with it. Fiber is the component, the key ingredient that truly helps with this.
Yes, it's like a sponge. And the ileum area is the first area of inflammation. The first area of cautionary warning the body gives off that things are not connecting, not working properly in the colon. And then the ileum is, like you said, when the small and large colon meet. And so depending on you and your condition and the environment you've created, is where it travels into colitis or travels into Crohn's. And one can lead both. You can have both. One can turn into the other just as easy. But the ileum is where all this begins to happen. And the fiber does help it as a gentle broom, as a gentle sponge, helping with that oil and the bile processes that go on.
Is your protocol for colitis and for Crohn's the same, or is it different?
It's different. It's unique to each person. Even if I had two Crohn's people in front of me, it would be slightly different because of the way they metabolize their food.
So it would depend on a person's metabolism.
Well, their absorbability, the way they digest, their mental state has a lot to do with it. And a lot of times I guide myself from their mental evaluation, their emotional evaluation, how strict I'm going to be with a person, how quickly I'm going to move them through the program, or how slow and hand-holding they need to have. And so I have all levels of counseling, because you have those jump starters and then you have those that you have to hold a hand more. And the residential program, being the most extensive one, the 10-day, is for those situations that do better under my roof and me doing it for them the first few days anyway, because I get them hands-on pretty quickly after that. Okay.
What's more important? Foods that need to be included into the diet that you never had before, very particularly helpful for this condition, or is it more important to eliminate what stresses the body?
That is a great question. I love that you asked that question, because it's more important for you to eliminate the triggers. Now, I say that cautiously, because when you have these digestive conditions, you're so depleted that you don't want to be not eating. There's a thing called bowel rest that they even do at the hospital. They hook you up to IVs and you have bowel rest. But unfortunately, they don't know how to get you back on food in a safe way. So after you've had bowel rest, you might end up with fried chicken on your plate before you leave the hospital. So we do bowel rest in a more gentle way, but always supplying nourishment going in. You know, a cup of miso soup is very gentle, but it provides so much nourishment, not only probiotically, but protein and minerals, and it's so powerful that even if you're taking somebody off their eggs and bacon in the morning, you're giving them a cup of miso soup that's providing better nourishment for that moment. And then, of course, secondary is the combination of these foods. Because you're able to absorb slowly at first, you want not to bombard the body with food, but the food you're providing for it to be nutrient dense. So even if you're eating a little bit, you're getting a lot in that little bit as your body gets used to it, as your intestines start functioning better.
Yes, that's important.
I want to follow up with that question because I have many people that come see me personally, and then because I add the education program to it, I see them then a few days later, a week later in class, and I'll say to them, you know what, you're less swollen, or your skin looks better. I make a comment of the improvement I see. And they say to me, oh, but I haven't started the program fully yet. I haven't gotten all the ingredients together, so I haven't officially started. Mm-hmm. And that proves to me that I've already stopped the trigger foods. And just stopping the trigger foods, the body gets a rest from that stress.
And the body is so marvelous at being able to heal so fast.
Yes,
and
it is. I'm just a guide. I'm increasingly pleased and just, it's a miracle every time I work with somebody and I see what the body can do. And I tell you, I've had conditions that you wouldn't believe, that people call me and say, I've been diagnosed with this. It's supposed to kill me in a few months or whatever. Do you think we can do anything? And I always say, let's try. Let's try to see the potential of reversal your body can do, to what point of healing it will bring you, because even 50% is better than what's going on now. And it's just amazing how quickly it happens.
And never place a period where God has placed a comma.
Exactly.
Just like it says in your book.
Yes.
You just mentioned about miso soup. You know, some people may not be familiar with it, but we know that Macrobiotics offers a range of this special quality of healing grade foods that are very, very beneficial to the body. What are some of them?
Yes, there's a group of foods that are so healing for the body. And one of the classes I do, I'll outline what a balanced meal is. And we know where our nutrition comes from. We know where we get, vitamin C from greens and protein from beans and so on and so forth. But what we lack is knowledge on how energetically those things come together. And so in this class, I try to point out that the energetic balance needs to be the most important thing you look for. And so something like miso soup that is very simple, it's going to do a lot more than you trying to figure out, I need protein from this, I need, this from the other. And then within that realm, you're always making the balance of the food focus on digestibility. And we have some wonderful foods in the macrobiotic lifestyle, such as miso, such as the umeboshi products, which are the plums, the vinegars, things like that. Fermented foods that all help rebuild the gut environment, because that's where you have to begin the healing, is changing that gut environment.
And I'm sure you're guiding people to where to find these products, how to use them, how to cook them, and so on.
Yes, in detail.
In detail, very good.
In detail.
And then they leave armed with the knowledge, armed with recipes and the program, and they can continue doing it independently.
Yes, and independent is very important because it empowers you. So three of my counseling programs, outpatient counseling programs, I divided up into 1 month, 2 month, 3 month. It just depends what you feel like you need, the level of support. Then I have a collaborative program called Digestive Healing for Life that I do with a digestive coach. And that has been very successful for the people that can't come for the 10-day. Mm-hmm. And they get weekly coaching with this coach. And so it's a step more hand-holding, but not residential. And then, of course, the residential. And all these programs have come out of the need I see in society as we are. Because when I was counseling, even 15, 20 years ago, I could put people on a food program and they would turn around pretty quickly. But they weren't showing up already with having taken immunosuppressive drugs or had half their colon taken out. It's just so much more crisis situation now when they show up that I needed more tools to help me help them.
For those people who cannot come see you in person, are you able to work with them long distance?
Yes, now that we have this wonderful product called Zoom, yes, it has really helped tremendously. My consultation and analysis requires that I see a person because I analyze so much by our interaction and then, like I said, their visual analysis that I do. So I can do online programs, and everything is kind of virtual now anyway, and people seem to be catching on to that more. And so, yes, I can do that.
Before we say goodbye to each other, and I'm enjoying this conversation so much, for those people who are truly in crisis and would love to hear something positive, something reinforcing, can you bring up maybe a couple of case histories, successful healing stories without naming people?
Okay, sure. Oh, goodness. There's just so many. I had people coming to me on their way to the hospital. The family members call and say, we can't do anything more. The medicine's not working. We're going back to the hospital. Can you do anything? And I'll say, yeah, bring them by. Let me, work with them for a few days or whatever. And in 2 or 3 days, you know if you're on the right track. And that's what happened with me. I had a gentleman back not too long ago who was his third hospital stay. And his friends finally said to him, go there, go see Virginia, go do her program. And it was amazing how quickly he got back on his feet and learned how to start his environmental change so he doesn't trigger flare-ups. Because that's really the key here, is to learn how to avoid flare-ups. The longer you avoid flare-ups, the more the tissue can heal. I've had, children. I had a little girl who came to me with her mother from Chile, actually. She had heard of me, and the mother was a pediatrician. The little girl was 3 years old, and the mother called me desperate and said they want to remove my daughter's colon, and I cannot, as a parent, make that decision for her. And so they flew, and they stayed with me 2 weeks since they were coming so far. And that little girl was eating just maybe 4 things at the most. And she had bloody diarrhea. And within days, we settled down her pain because I use other therapies also. And with a child, what I do is I I do an interview to see what their favorite foods are. What are they eating? What are they willing to eat? And then I use a lot of imagination to create those foods as close to what they're used to as possible. And so you wouldn't believe the ingredients I put in a burger or smoothie for them or a pancake. They get seaweed in there. They get all kinds of ingredients in there to have that the building block that the cells get, because that's really the goal. No matter who shows up in what condition, my goal is to get the nutrients, the raw material in them quickly and consistently so the body has that to work with. If it doesn't have that to work with, what's the cellular system going to do? We're trying to get down to the mitochondria where everything happens. And you need that real food raw material to get there to spurt on the healing. And again, with a child, it happens quickly. And so it did with this little girl. She began to act like a 3-year-old. At first, she was wearing diapers because she was afraid to go to the bathroom. Her mother had to carry her everywhere. By the end of her trip, we were running around in the yard. She was being a 3-year-old. And through tears, her mother, her grandmother and I through tears would watch her thrive each day and see that she was going to have a second chance.
There's always hope.
Oh, always hope. Always hope.
How can people find you?
My website is down right now, unfortunately, but usually through youcanhealyou.com, and you spell it all out, is my website. They're cleaning up some viruses from it, so once it's up, it will be good to go. My number is 615-646-2841. That's the best number to reach me. I have a wonderful assistant, Monica, and her number is 615-249-8287. And either way, you can reach out. A good email for me would be Virginia@youcanhealyou.com. Again, you spell out the you can heal and spell out the you.com. I'm also on Facebook for You Can Heal You Now, and recently on Instagram. I have to keep up with the times here. So there's ways to track me down and find me.
And we'll make sure to post your phone number on the screen for this program also, so people can see it.
I'm also going to be teaching this summer at the Macrobiotic Summer Conference in Lenox, Massachusetts. It's held at the Eastover, and you can find out more information at eastover.com. And I'll be teaching there July 31st, the 1st and 2nd. And it's a wonderful venue because you can come for the week or for the day and hear the teachers you want to listen to, and also participate in the wonderful food they provide.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this information, Virginia.
Thank you. I think it's a great service what you're doing here, Victoria.
Thank you.
It's really a wonderful venue.
That.
I've enjoyed being part of it.
Before we hang up, finally, you've just said so many wonderful things. Lots of words of wisdom. Would you say what you would like to wish to our audience, please?
I wish for everybody to wake up and get empowered with their own health, because that's what's going to create vibrant life. And it is about waking up and paying attention. And so find your avenue to get there, but get empowered with your own health.
Thank you so much, and we wish you to continue thrive and have so much energy and be healthy so that you can help many more people. Thank you for being there in Nashville, Tennessee, for everyone who needs that. And you guys, please remember, the sun sets to rise again. Don't lose your hopes, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you. Goodbye.